Meacham Park was an individual community, but it annexed with Kirkwood. And Meacham Park was bought by a white man, and it was sold to other black people. And it's so kind of interesting at that part because the man, Mr. Meacham, he wanted to help other African Americans, so the community was automatically built off of, you know, kind of like community, friendship, and white and blacks live together kind of in harmony.
Meacham Park is a historically black community, and it was, at one point, it stood alone as a community on its own.
Well, I learned that it was a lot tougher to live there in the earlier years because there wasn't running sewers, there wasn't running water in some houses. Some people had it rougher than others, but I just know now that I need to really take into perspective what people have gone through and what their community has gone through as a whole, and how I need to keep that in perspective whenever I look in Meacham Park.
From what I've learned, it seems like it was pretty friendly, like family friendly, but it seems like they were treated unfairly by the stories I've heard, and it seems like just by how the town was viewed and how it was made out to be, it's got a bad reputation. But it's a lot better and a lot more family friendly and caring than a lot of people think.
The community is still like this. They still have a lot of connections and things like that. But when it annexed with Kirkwood, Kirkwood kind of took away some of those things, and this project is almost like giving back.
Well, what we did in our journalism class, like our assignment, we were gonna go deeper into the facts of Meacham Park because we kind of just knew that Meacham Park was in Kirkwood and it was an all-black community. That's kind of all our class knew about in the beginning. But we were assigned to go a little bit deeper into the fact and start interviewing people and talking about their stories because we knew that there was just more than it's an all-black community in Kirkwood.
So the Connecting the Community Through the Arts project that our journalism class is doing is really taking a part of Meacham Park history, and the kids are researching and writing stories, and then it will be turned into actual written stories. But then the arts part of it, there will be the creative side, people who will take the stories and turn them into maybe poetry or a play or visual, some kind of visual art.
The objective of the project is to get the students writing and connecting them, I think first and foremost, connecting them to a community of Kirkwood that they are probably, and as we've learned, they are not familiar with.
And in the process, what they've done is they created interview questions. They actually interviewed people who have lived in the community or have relatives that lived in the community or worked in the community. And then in groups and also individually created stories to tell the story of Meacham Park.
We really felt like a 7th grade journalism class, or any journalism class for that matter, it was the perfect setup for this type of project because it involves a process of interviewing, which is a skill that we're working on with our students, and then the process of pulling out the important pieces of information and telling a story.
The Connecting Community Through the Arts program essentially is a way for discovering your community and then telling the story using a variety of forms of art.
So not only are our students here at NYFER learning more about their community at large, they'll then get the opportunity to see their work put to life through stage play or some sort of poetry or visual art. They'll also get to see their stories published and be able to view those at the library here at school and in the community or at City Hall.
Some students took great pride in becoming a part of this project. Their stories that they wrote are stories that you could probably read in a newspaper.
Did you ever celebrate with your students Like every time you did like a performance or something that went really well, did you ever like take them out to ice cream or something?
Yes, I did. A lot of times, sometimes I didn't go in with them, and they didn't know why. But the hotels and restaurants wouldn't serve me.
So for the teachers and students at your schools that you went to that were prejudiced, how did that affect you like personally? Do you have any personal stories that you would
As a child, when you didn't understand, even though your parents tried to explain it, but you were you had to do it in order to not be labeled as a troublemaker?
The students interviewed a variety of people that are some way, somehow associated with Meacham Park.
We've interviewed Kirkwood High School students, try to get a perspective on what it's like nowadays, and we've interviewed older people who lived in Meacham Park, and some of them still do live in Meacham Park, just to get a view of what it was like then and what it's like now.
Do they have any more shotgun houses in the neighborhood that are still standing?
At this point, there are a few, maybe 3 at the most.
What's your favorite tradition you ever had at Meacham Park?
My favorite tradition in Meacham Park? My favorite tradition in Meacham Park, and it's probably not exclusive to Meacham Park, but cork ball.
Did you go to school at Turner whenever you
I went to Turner to the 9th grade.
Is there any knowledge that you know of the motorcycle club and what it was and how it worked?
Do you think after your teacher gave you those clothes, do you think it changed your point of view of things?
You put books in and you take books out and you bring back, and the kids just love it.
We used to have in the month of May, we'd have a May Day celebration.
I never worried about safety in Meacham Park. When I grew up, Meacham Park was just a family place.
I think the students connected most with the fact that they were able to hear and see history and then write about it.
Probably the interview that stuck with me the most out of all of them was the one with Jonetta Haley, because she showed that even though she hit all these obstacles, she still pushed through it and still accomplished so much.
You have an opportunity now to do much more than I have done.
I don't really think that any of our students had direct experience of being in Meacham Park. They know students that live there, but had never really spent time in the community of Meacham Park.
Well, the field trip to Meacham Park, we took a bus over to Meacham Park and we met with the pastor, Pastor Ike, and we walked all around Meacham Park and we stood in their parks and we got to learn a lot more than it would have just been like our teachers telling us, because it was somebody that actually has lived there before and they knew the people that were in Meacham Park and they knew what it felt like to live there.
These were all shotgun houses along here. Yes, all of these were shotgun houses. And over here, Meacham Park, even when I was born, these were dirt streets.
Standing on the grounds where things took place gave the students a little more opportunity to kind of feel one-on-one with what they were doing.
And this was the center of all the attractions for anything that happened in Meacham Park. You know, this is where we gathered at here.
It's very authentic to have them in the space so that they can see it for themselves. And for them to stand there and realize how much the corporate buyout of that land and the development, the shopping development, had impacted that community was really powerful. They could not really get their minds around that based upon the conversations that we were having.
That was a great field trip. It really helped with the development of this project. We were all there in Meacham Park whenever we were trying to learn about it, and we walked up and down like some of the streets, and it gave us just a lot more perspective on it because we saw it.
Sometimes all it takes is one person. All it takes is one person doing something, exposing something, telling a truth. As journalists, you all are journalists, right? Right, okay. Tell the truth. Make that your core. It's black and white. Just know where your ethics, your moral center lies. What you will accept and what you will not accept. And then go forward from there.
I think this project made me look at the world a lot differently than I used to. And if you think something's bad or some person or some place is bad, it's better to go there and see it for yourself other than have somebody else tell you about it. So I think this project has made me look at the world in a whole new perspective.
Part of what we've done in the classroom is to talk about what are good questions, what could we ask, what will get you to a more deeper understanding of the person that you're interviewing.
In journalism, it's all about getting the details. And we picked out every single little detail of Meacham Park and we put it all into this huge project. And it was amazing with all we did with it.
You know, typically when we talk to students at this age about racism, they don't experience it in their day-to-day lives because we've made progress with civil rights and treating people equally. However, it's still there. I think they were flabbergasted sometimes by the stories, particularly the older residents. And they really needed to hear that this is something that we have to continue working on.
There is definitely improvement in their writing skills. The work that they came up with in the end is incredible writing.
While remembering what Meacham Park looked like in the 1970s, John Bennett drove through Meacham Park about 5 years ago when he was in town. I don't know if it's a good or bad change for the community, John said, thinking out loud.
Some people still don't have internet or cell phones. Although she tried to solve this problem, this may be a project that will never be fully complete.
Being a Christian is very important to Ike, and that is why he continued to honor his religion by becoming a pastor. His family, friends, and church have made a large difference in his life and who he is today.
The final product is going to be incredibly amazing. Local artists are going to take these stories and create plays, poetry, just to sort of exemplify the feelings from these stories that the kids have gotten.
I am very excited to see our stories turn into art because we worked so hard on these and it's going to be put into so much more life whenever they're made into art. It's going to be awesome.
It's just going to be super cool to see like all the stuff that we wrote turned into like a big picture.
It's very exciting. It tells the story. It celebrates, but it also all came from the work that these students did. So thank you for your hard work, and thank you very much for being here this morning to be part of this celebration.
To watch them go from, what are we doing, to look what we've done was a major plus.
Listening to some of their stories, I was moved to tears. I was choked up. I can't believe what they have produced. I think it's going to make an impact on the community. I'm hoping the community of Meacham Park appreciates how truthful these students were in their stories.
Whenever I come to this class, I think that what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be looking over stories, editing, revising, interviewing, and learning about just how to be personal and how to take into perspective that these stories, they mean something to somebody because we're doing human interest. These stories are somebody else's stories that they want to be told.